when you come into Limitless, we're looking at biomechanical assessment.
Right.
Can you perform your day-to-day life without getting injured? We also look at dietary assessments. What is happening to you on a cellular level? We want to know all about you. We want to understand, were you a breastfed baby? How was your childhood? Did you actually have poor sleep as an adolescent? Who are you across all these years? If I'm asking a 50-year-old who never drank water as a 5-year-old to now drink 3 liters of water, that might not happen easily. Know then who you want to be and how can we get that person there? It's a journey. And our job is to educate and guide. We don't want our clients to be with us forever. We want them to graduate and lead.
My name is Nobin John, your host. I believe that we live among superheroes. Many a times we walk past them not knowing because of our busy schedules. This podcast is my journey to find such individuals, bring them on board, and have meaningful conversation to unravel the biohacks and lifestyle hacks that they have used to optimize well-being and realize their fullest potential. In many of these hacks will lie the solution for us to look better, perform better, and live longer. Welcome to the Zuperhuman Podcast. My guest today is Tricia Yap, founder to Limitless, an enterprise that combines functional medicine and fitness. What I love the most is how Limitless is able to combine integrative nutrition, functional medicine approach, and fitness training to showcase a supercharged lifestyle. Tricia Yap is a renowned face in the space of health and wellness in Hong Kong. Needless to say, for her limitless achievements and accomplishments. To name a few: Hong Kong's first MMA fighter, a qualified, certified nutrition coach, strength coach, a mom of 3, and needless to say, still hungry, going to go ahead to do her clinical nutrition course in Hong Kong. This lady is a limitless superhero that I'm super keen to invite on board and also find out about how she achieves so much. Tricia, welcome on board.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
It is a pleasure, and I'm so keenly looking forward to explore your journey. Also find out some of those lifestyle hacks and biohacks that you have used to optimize well-being and, to be honest, realize your fullest potential and stay so hungry. Where this becomes very exciting for me is knowing that you have moved from a phase of being a professional MMA fighter, lethal contact sport, to somebody today who is all about fitness and combining that beautifully with integrative nutrition and functional medicine. A very rounded, holistic approach. Now, I think, personally, I could be wrong here, this is not an accident. There must be a story. And I would love to know, and I'm sure our listeners and our viewers would love to know this.
Oh, all right. Well, what does MMA and functional medicine have in common? Actually, you know what? Funnily enough, a lot of things. So I started into the sport really because I moved to Hong Kong 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. And when I moved here, the lifestyle, nutrition, the environment was very different to what I grew up with in Australia.
Wow.
Right, so I kind of swapped beach and sky and sun for an office, very much an office environment, which I really wasn't used to. And I think culturally as well, there were a lot of differences between the culture that I'm used to and the culture that I entered. And so I think when you throw it all together, there was maybe one main thing, which was number one, anger management. And so either I turned to alcoholism, which is quite common in Hong Kong.
Extreme, yes, but common.
Exactly. Or I thought maybe I'll choose a healthier route, join a boxing gym. And so I did. Now, in that boxing gym, I remember my very first coach who said to me, "I'm not bad for an old bird." Wow. I know, right? It's great encouragement. And from there, I actually decided to compete. And honestly, the rest is history. I just fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with boxing, and then I took on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I fell in love with that. My coach there at the time said, if you can box, you can do Jiu-Jitsu, you can wrestle a little bit. Why not try MMA? And at that point, I was like, well, there's something in me, and I think it's curiosity. And that has also been what's fueled me towards the functional medicine fitness side too, is that curiosity when someone says, there's this thing here. And I go, ooh, what is that? Let me try it. And so, as I said, that's it. The rest is history. So I found MMA. I did a few fights, and I thought, this is brilliant. I love this. And I decided, okay, well, let's keep this going. But the thing with that journey is that as a female athlete in a very, very male-dominated sport, and you're talking, you're talking 2013.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
10 years ago. So you're talking 10 years ago, and this is before UFC became massive. This is before Ronda Rousey, before Conor McGregor,
right?
Or when they were just starting out. I didn't have the support that I needed as a female athlete in this type of sport, because for those of you who don't know, mixed martial arts is you compete. It's effectively cage fighting. You utilize a variety of martial arts where the rules are across 3 rounds of 5 minutes. You could submit somebody, you could knock out someone, or you could take the fight towards points. But all in all, you can utilize any form of martial art to do so with your opponent. However, it's also a weight class-based sport. And so you would have to weigh in at a specific weight, and you could not be over it. And when I approached the sport, knowing that I had to be a particular weight class, the thing in this sport is that in order to have an advantage or so-called advantage, you would want to weigh in as light as possible and rehydrate to be as heavy as possible. So big weight cuts were quite the norm.
Right.
And I didn't know how to approach one because I'd never done one before.
Right.
And so the very first nutrition advice I'd ever got, and mind you, I'd never been on any form of diet in my life until then.
I hear you.
Was just have
13 years back. Yeah. What's a diet?
Yeah.
Just eat what you get, and they were relatively healthier than what you would get today at 9 or 10
exactly.
times.
And it was very much, have chicken and broccoli and no sauce. So I did that. I made weight, but I felt horrific. Had no energy. It was a drag to train. I couldn't sleep at some stage. Later on, I did work with, so-called nutritional professionals. One of them put me on a ketogenic diet. My hair started falling out. I actually experienced irregular periods. I had a miscarriage. There were all these health issues that I had. And I went, you know what? I play a sport. I go to a doctor who tells me that my blood work is normal. If not, it's extremely healthy.
Right.
So why can't I have a child? And why do I feel tired all the time? And why is my sleep completely wrecked? But I'm not sick. So if I'm not sick and I don't have a diagnosis, but if I'm not feeling healthy either, then what am I? Where am I? And who can help me?
And I'd like to just pause on this because this is a state that I've been there. And I'm sure many of our listeners and viewers are experiencing this right now where everything looks perfect on a blood work.
Yep.
But symptoms such as sleep, lack of energy, you start to look older than you actually are.
Yes.
And you think about, zest and vitality that everybody's talking about. You just seem to have nothing.
Yeah.
Now, where is the programming going wrong?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have the energy to get you through your day. And you talk about zest and you've lost zest. You might feel a little bit ostracized, or you don't want to socialize because you don't have the energy to do that. And maybe you're that person who actually likes to go out or likes to be with people or likes to train. And I found myself in a state where, I couldn't understand what was going on because I wasn't myself, right? But I was ticking all the boxes in terms of the diets that I was following. I was weighing my food. I was making sure. I even taught my helper how to make food according to the macros, which was incredible.
Right, amazing.
Yeah, right. And she must have been thinking, this girl is loony. I would carry a mini weighing scale everywhere I would go. And I even had an Excel spreadsheet, which when you entered the different types of training sessions, numbers, etc., it would literally spit out what I needed on a daily basis throughout the week, which it's pretty incredible.
For 13 years back, yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly, right, without the AI.
Wow. Yeah, needless to mention.
Yeah, exactly. But putting all that aside, this is where back then someone said to me, oh, there's a seminar on functional medicine. And I went, what is functional medicine? What is that? And they said, yeah, it's geared towards fitness professionals. And I went, oh, okay, well, I'm really curious. I want to know what this is. This sounds kind of cool.
Love it. Yeah.
Right. So I went there, and the guy who was running a seminar, his name is Owen Lacey.
Wow.
And Owen, I really am grateful for in my life. He's one of my first and biggest mentors in the space. And he was here in Hong Kong for, I think it was 3 days.
Right.
And I don't remember a second where my mouth wasn't on the floor. Because every word that he said, I was like, that's me. And that's me again. And that's me again. And that's me again. And I think by the end of it, I must have looked like this, ridiculous fangirl. I'm not that kind of person. Right? Yeah. I don't have the let's camp out in the backstage going like, ah! and I was doing that. My God. So I remember going up to him at the end of it saying, that's me you're talking about. What do I do? Right? And the whole seminar, I was listening to it and going, I need to change things. So it's not so much just eating according to calories and macros. There's so much more to that. There are all these things called hormones. There's things called lifestyle. There's actually a life to be lived.
Right.
Right? Because at the end of the day, if your world is being dictated by cortisol, which was what it was, right? I would wake up, I stressed every day about what I looked like. I stressed every day about what I would weigh in at, what I ate. I was told by a bodybuilder who called himself a nutrition coach, white rice is bad for you. So for 8 years, I didn't touch white rice.
Not knowing.
Yeah. And I still remember in 2016 when CGM started, and I started experimenting with CGM, meaning continuous glucose monitoring.
Right.
And I slapped a continuous glucose monitor on my arm.
Wow.
And I ate white rice looking as if I was, I was eating chicken feet, for example. I don't eat chicken, it scares me. But, I was like putting that very first spoonful of white rice in my mouth, and it barely made an increase on the monitor.
Wow.
But my sweet potato and fish meal that I've been eating for years spiked my blood sugar up 5 points to almost what looked like diabetic levels.
Wow.
And I realized then that honestly, we give this too much lip service, saying that everybody's unique, everybody is different, not everything works for everyone, but truly taking a more holistic approach, truly understanding and assessing someone from whether that's on a biochemical level or a biomechanical level, or both, and even a state of mind, mental health, all of that. You need to do it because everybody has very different genes. They have very different lifestyles. They live in very different environments.
Right.
They have also very different responses to all these different things.
I'm a big fan of this word, bioindividuality. It is just not about genetics, but it's also about the environment that you actually live in and the kind of people that you surround yourself with. Exactly. All this has an impact right from your hormonal level, your assimilation or your gut health, your detoxification, and needless to say, your energy states, which is a mitochondrial function.
And I found out firsthand that I'm not actually what I'm eating. I'm what I can digest and absorb and assimilate. But I wasn't digesting anything in a state of stress.
Right. And I know you mentioned the word cortisol, and a lot of our viewers and also our listeners would have a vague idea of what cortisol is. But I've loved it when you've said it, and hence I just want to go back again on the cortisol and how you managed it.
Let me try to kind of distill it a little bit. So I think the very first thing is that cortisol is actually not bad. A lot of people see cortisol as bad. You know, we shouldn't have it. But hey, cortisol is what wakes you up in the morning. Cortisol is what helps you to train. Cortisol is actually what helps me to do this podcast right now.
Right.
Right? Cortisol is what helps me with my kids. Okay, so cortisol drives you in a way. Now, the thing is, there's good stress and there's bad stress, right? There's the amount of cortisol you can produce, and then there's the amount of cortisol that you then spend. And then there's what's left over for you to utilize. You know, during COVID, I would say, hand on my heart, most people that I know have burnt out.
Right.
Right? So they were in a state of poor health, whether that's burning out mentally, emotionally, physically. Okay. So let's call it that their ability to make cortisol was not actually optimal.
Right.
Okay? But their expenditure of it was super high. So when you net it out, you actually had nothing left.
You're in the negatives.
You're in the negatives. And that's where you become demotivated. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning, right? You're feeling a bit, meh, right? You might procrastinate on things.
Right.
Okay. So we shouldn't see cortisol as a bad thing. What we need to understand with cortisol is our ability to produce what we're spending it on. Now, cortisol is indiscriminate. It's even the perception of stress, okay? So imagine you're in a dark alleyway, okay, and it's 3 a.m. in the morning, but there's actually no danger.
Right.
But how do you feel? Your body's a bit tingly, alert, you're looking around, you're getting ready for something. That perception that there is danger, the fear of getting attacked, increases cortisol. So if I look at this in a day-to-day real life scenario, the fact that your phone is pinging all the time.
Right.
And maybe you know that, I've got to do all these things when I get home, but I can't remember what it is. And there's a grocery list and, the kids need this and my daughter's lost her jacket at school and all that. And the perception of this, all these stresses, you're spending cortisol already, right? So cortisol is indiscriminate in that effect. I love it when you say control. So I can control what I put in my mouth, right?
Brilliant.
I can control, to a certain extent, being a mom when I sleep. I can't control when I wake up, trust me. Okay. I can somewhat control during the day when I have a little bit of me time, whether that's 5 minutes, whether that's 1 hour. Okay. But mostly I can control what I put in my mouth.
Right.
I cannot control all those other things that I talked about. And this is where I would say to my clients, what is your elephant in the room? Because a lot of the times that is mental, that is emotional, that is maybe difficulties with your personal relationships, right? That is the financial stresses that you maybe have as a family unit or you have for yourself. That is the stresses as a business owner or the stress of a P&L if you're a manager in a company, right? You cannot control that. You could control your response to it and how you compartmentalize it, but that is really hard to do.
Very correct.
But what you choose to eat and drink, that is a lot easier than trying to make X amount a year or this or that, So you've got to pick where you're spending it on, and you need to be frugal in certain areas. And that's how I see cortisol.
And I think from what you say, one of the key elements of being or living a superhuman state is by managing cortisol, by maybe just saying that there are things I can control.
Yep.
And accepting things that is out of your control and using maybe food and what you drink as medicine to build resilience, a word that we've heard a lot.
Absolutely. And, and if you can, focus on getting deep sleep. I mean, I know that like clockwork, maybe at 5:30 in the morning, I'm going to be woken up.
Right.
Like it's clockwork. right? I will always have,
The reason?
Mummy, I need a
Oh, yes.
cuddle. Okay, so
Love it.
I know, Mummy, there's a wolf under my bed. So I know that that's going to happen. Now, do I then go, okay, well, if I sleep at midnight, that means I get 5.5 hours of sleep. If I sleep at 10:30, wow, I might actually be, get some magical additional hours. And so, yes, I do use certain hacks in that sense, right? So I know that, okay, on the night where I may have had to work late, right, let's call it 11 p.m., I also ask myself, actually, if I'm staying up till 11 p.m. working, is this effective?
Right.
Am I changing things and can it wait? Right. I'm a big believer of a combination of a magnesium blend and inositol.
Right.
Right. Magnesium helps with putting you to sleep. It's a precursor to melatonin and serotonin. And inositol it helps you go into a deeper sleep. It tops up all your neurotransmitters. It also helps regulate blood sugar a little bit.
Nice.
Right. And so I do use a little bit of supplemental help to kind of get me into a deeper state.
Right.
And I also know that I have better quality sleep on those nights because I track it with an Oura ring. I utilize a little bit of technology to help me hack things and to help me assess whether or not I'm getting better quality sleep or I'm not. Do I rely on the technology to dictate my life? Absolutely not.
Because it can also be a stressor at the end, right?
Exactly. I actually run weekly reports and I look on average how much average deep sleep I have. I go, okay, right, that's been a hard week. It correlates. What can I do in the next week to chop and change things? And really in Hong Kong, the city that we live in, a lot of it comes down to saying no.
No, to maybe even looking at that phone in the morning when you wake up, when by default, your cortisol levels are high. And the last thing you want to look at is a message or a text that increases your level. And you beautifully said this, fear. Many a times on the phones, be it in the news today also, everything is perceived as, if there's an element of fear, it gives you an arousal and you get brownie points or ratings.
Exactly.
How I look at fear is very simple. I just ask myself this question. Is it something that's going to get you, or is it fear, which is false emotions appearing real? And 9 out of 10 times, it's false emotions appearing real, and I can choose to control that and say, you know what? That's not reality. And I can right now change my state of mind and re-engineer the way I look at things.
Exactly.
Knowing that if I continue down this route, this is just going to disrupt the rest of my day, where I'm going to feel tired, where I'm going to feel there is no zest in me. I am a social person, but I don't want to be around people. Why would I want to go out this road if I can have just started the day by taking control and by just sometimes, just stating it out. I'm going to be in control today, knowing that your cortisol levels are going to be high. That actually doesn't push it even further.
A good friend and entrepreneur actually said to me once, and really it resonated. She goes, I've stopped trying to have the perfect day. I now expect that there's something's going to go wrong.
Love it.
And I'm going to have to triage. And I was like, this is true. As a business owner, you never know what's going to happen. Everything comes at you at once. These days I wake up and I go, okay, right. Something is going to happen today. It's just life. And you know what? When it doesn't happen, it's like, whew, we've got to celebrate the small win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this is something that is beautifully laid out. But if I were to just modify that, I would say, like, everybody is an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur who is in charge, who has one big business, that is their well-being.
Absolutely.
And well-being today is a business. If you don't invest into it and pay attention, that is going to be your biggest grosser of bills at a later stage, when you should be thinking about much more and for many more.
And this investment is so important. A lot of people say to me, but this is really expensive. Buying organic produce is expensive. Hiring a personal trainer to guide me is expensive. Getting, mental help is expensive. I said, yes, but if you make this investment today, then you will not have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars in cancer care, for example, right, later on in life. And that kind of medical treatment is going to drain you more financially
Right.
than making a few better decisions earlier on in your journey.
That brings me to our next juncture where you say you take control and you want to be in control. And you also beautifully mentioned that what you eat and what you drink, also what you think, and the state you put yourself in is a prime mover of your own well-being. How would you define functional medicine and integrative nutrition in correspondence to being in control or finding yourself or taking those early steps before it goes down that road of a disease state? Mind you, I'm calling disease state in purpose because any disease is just a state. You can choose to, again, have control and win it back.
You know what? As I always say to people, my job is to prevent you from seeing a doctor.
Love it.
Because when you get a diagnosis, you're sick, you're diabetic, you have cardiovascular disease, you have high blood pressure, you have hypertension, you have metabolic syndrome, you have IBS. These are all diagnoses. But if today you don't have a diagnosis, okay, my job then is to prevent you from getting one, right? If you do have a diagnosis, right, my job is to ensure that you're living the highest quality of life, right? And maybe, just maybe, that diagnosis might go away.
Beautiful. I know these words in Hong Kong are very new, but very upcoming. And in the States and places like Europe, this is the go-to modern medicine, which I truly believe. Would you be able to define functional medicine for our audience?
Nutritional and lifestyle as medicine.
Love it.
Put very, very simply, right? Because what you eat, what you drink, what you do is simply a message for your genes to either turn on and off.
And those can be as simple as regenerative, or that can be as bad as, a cancerous state.
Absolutely, yeah. There you go. I would say that's it, really. I'm not a doctor. I don't treat disease. I'm trying to prevent it.
Right. And also, a lot of people in these disease states, slips happen.
Yes.
And that's the reason why I just call it a state.
Yeah.
How does something as beautiful as integrative nutrition and also functional medicine, also putting Limitless into the picture now, help?
Limitless is the culmination, I think, of my journey in health and fitness and wellness, right? When I first started in the industry, my first company was female boot camps.
Wow, okay.
And
was that, how many years ago was that?
Wow, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, I
Going
think.
Back to memory lane.
Memory lane. And it was very much about getting someone to move every single day. Right? With one rest day. And it was very much no pain, no gain, right? Show up, work hard, right? Eat clean, and, all those Instagram messages that we see today that kind of, in a way, make me cringe a little bit. But it was brilliant because it got people to move. It got women to move. It got women to weight train. It got women to not fear the fact that they're putting on muscle. Because muscle is what's going to help you grow old, to grow old well, right? One of the biggest things post-menopause is sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of muscle.
Right.
Right? So you want muscle. Muscle is not your enemy. It's not going to make you look like the Hulk, right? So we want that. So it was a brilliant thing that I created. But then there were the gaps. And for me, that's where curiosity and love of learning and maybe a little bit of frustration because I couldn't help, right? And I was like, well, there's something else aside from moving and eating clean. What is that, right? And that's when I started learning a lot more about functional medicine, or rather hormonal health, right? The interaction of cortisol with blood sugar, or insulin with blood sugar, the interaction of what happens when you sleep, right? Adrenal health, gut health. You're not what you eat, you're what you digest, absorb, and then assimilate. So all these other things which kind of went, oh, there's all that. But then even after you've kind of learned that and you're moving in that space, you go, wait a second. There's a psychology part to it too. Okay, because at the end of the day, you could have this beautiful solution and most people know what they're doing wrong. But why can't they go towards making better, healthier decisions? So then that's where habit coaching, positive psychology comes into play. Right. And
Lovely.
I mean, isn't it a kind of beautiful, messy can of worms? Right. And I feel that that's where Limitless works. Right. When you come into Limitless, when we onboard you, we don't just tell you what your body fat percentage is. I mean, we can if you want to, but we're looking at body composition in how much muscle do you have, right? Are you structurally balanced? So then we look at a physical biomechanical assessment.
Right.
Okay. Can you perform the exercises we would like you to do? Can you perform your day-to-day life without getting injured?
Right.
There's those assessments. And then we also look at a lifestyle assessment and a dietary assessment. So you come in, you fill out nutritional symptoms questionnaire. There's a lot. There's about 300 different symptoms, but we want to understand what is happening to you on a cellular level.
Beautiful.
Okay. And then we have what we call the interview process. We actually sit down and we want to know all about you. We want to understand, were you a breastfed baby, a natural or C-section baby? How was your childhood? What were your habits then? Did you actually have poor sleep as an adolescent? Right? Were you under a lot of pressure to perform as a kid? Okay. What did you do in your first years of work? Who are you across all these years? And that is an approach where we then begin to understand if someone as a child only drank sodas like Coke or fruit juices, and they never drank water. If I'm as a coach today asking a 50-year-old who never drank water as a 5-year-old to now drink 3 liters of water, that might not happen easily.
Right.
Right. So we need to know all these things.
And that's the beauty. The conversation seems so easy because we, at the moment, wherever we stand on is nothing but an architecture of different past emotions, feelings, lifestyle habit, choices, and also trauma.
Yes, absolutely.
And this architecture can be re-engineered by accepting that, yes, I need to work on a few things. I am not what my genetics or what my past defined me to be, but I can use that as a platform, work with the right individuals. And that's the beauty about what I think Limitless does, is finding out who you actually are.
Exactly.
Who you were.
Yes. And who you want to be, and how
Love it.
Can we get that person there? But it's not a 30-day transformation. It's not even a 12-month transformation. It's a journey, right? And our job is to, in a way, educate and guide. We don't want our clients to be with us forever.
Right.
We want them to be independent. We want them to graduate and leave.
I love what you said. Yeah.
Right?
It's like a school.
Yeah.
A school of rock. The new school of rock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
School of health.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think, or where do you think people are going wrong fundamentally? So let's put it this way. But blood works okay.
Yeah.
Where do you think someone who's got that emotion can start?
I always start at gut health. And again, I'm stealing a little bit of Owen Lacey, but I love this 5, 10, 15, 20 rule, right? How many of us, when we approach mealtime, okay, either we forget about it, right? Either we're just shoving food down like there's no tomorrow, or you're eating in front of a computer, right? You're eating on the go. So 5, 10, 15, 20 is 5 deep diaphragmatic breaths before you eat your food. Have a meal with somebody so that you can have at least 10 seconds between each mouthful.
Right.
Because chewing unbelievably helps with digestion.
Love it.
Right? You want your meal to last no less than 15 minutes, which is why having a nice conversation with a friend in good company helps. Right? And then to help digestion along, you want a 20-minute walk after, which also has been shown to bring down post-meal inflammation.
Wow. So that's the 5, 10, 15, 20. So 5 minutes of just sitting back, looking around, taking a deep breath and saying life is good maybe?
Yes, exactly. Do some affirmations, look around and admire the beauty around you, right? Then 10 seconds between each mouthful, have a social conversation, right?
Beautiful.
Have a conversation with someone you love, you care about, have someone who you think is funny or fun, right? Because during the day, most of us look like this.
Very correct.
Right? But when we're smiling, when we're laughing, what automatically happens? We immediately go into a parasympathetic state.
Beautiful.
Right? Our airways open up. Okay? Our face changes. And when you walk down the street and you see someone smiling, radiating, right? You're like, hey, life is good. Life is beautiful. And then there's that gratitude practice, which maybe I'm not great at gratitude, but it just comes by when I see someone so happy.
Right.
And I go, hey, you know what? Whatever I'm experiencing, that's actually, life can be beautiful, right? So you have that 10 seconds, then 15 minutes, because, hey, when was the last time you talked to somebody you cared about for 15 minutes?
Right.
Minimum. And I'm not talking on WhatsApp.
I hear it. Yeah.
Right? And a 20-minute walk, you're getting your steps, you're getting movement, you're getting outdoors, you're in a way earthing, grounding yourself, connecting with nature, right? Because where else are you for the 8 hours of the day or 9 hours of the day? Right? And you're probably indoors.
And there's proven science these days to show that even 5 minutes of an exercise that you actually mentioned can resonate and have positive effects on yourself and people around you for up to 8 hours. And if you dial down to like 40 minutes, done 2 times a day,
you're winning.
You're thriving.
And you have to eat.
Correct.
We need to fuel ourselves. So we have to eat. And so I do love that, because you also have the opportunity to be social as well.
Even if it's over a $50 sandwich, something that you can afford with your financial capacity or your time capacity.
Exactly.
Incorporate these elements and you're winning.
I'll take someone outside. I'll grab a friend, or I'll grab a mentee, or I'll grab somebody that, you know, maybe we've been to have coffee together for a while. Right? I'll say, hey, do you want to sit outside, get a simple meal, and, you know, and just chat?
Because you could be an introvert. You could have emotions like, what did they say no?
I actually, you know, I am very introverted. There are some days where I go, okay, I don't really want to talk to anyone today. But what I'll do is, what I love about Hong Kong is its wet markets and the little nooks and crannies. And I actually go into Sai Pun or Sheung Wan, and I try and mosey around and just walk and appreciate the city that I'm living in. And that could be my 20 minutes where I'm not looking at my phone. I'm looking at the guy who's selling crockery on the corner that's been there for years, who has some pretty cool stuff. Or I'm looking at the fresh vegetables for sale. Or I'm wandering in the, you know, sometimes the wet markets have these sections where they're little tailors and things like that. And I actually like wandering around inside to just admire the busyness and the fact that, you know, this is not the city I grew up with, but it's a city that I live in and I love.
As positive psychology would call it, appreciation of beauty.
Yes.
Is a trait that we all have to, like, you know, curate within ourselves. Putting that device away, not appreciating beauty on the phone, or looking at someone's Instagram profile or a picture that's taken. Go out, get a walk when it's calm or if it's busy, and appreciate life.
Absolutely. And, you know, whether you play you know, some sounds in your ear in your AirPods, and you take a walk along the harbour side. You know, we have the luxury here of having the sea next to us.
Beautiful, yeah.
Right. And that could be your 20 minutes, and that could be even your meal outside. And you're doing so many things just within those 45 minutes that you might not actually get to do in the rest of your day.
And if the viewers and listeners can take away one thing, I think this is such a beautiful philosophy of 5, 10, 15, 20, just stepping back, the 5 fundamental pillars of functional medicine or modern medicine: exercise and movement, stress management, relaxation, nutrition, and also emotions. Yep. Taking a little bit of control, appreciating beauty and feeling good about it, and also enhancing your relationship with yourself and with the outside world, yep, with what you have. And once you've done this, and you beautifully said this, things like assimilation or gut health, hormonal health, detoxification, cellular regeneration.
It all happens.
It happens.
Because it doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to overthink it, right? And really, even when it comes to diet, everybody's overthinking it. But can you imagine if I went to market and I said, guys, I have this uber brilliant, superhuman diet that's going to work for you. And it's called the balanced diet. Mm-hmm. How unsexy is that?
Yeah.
From a marketer's standpoint, they're going to be like, what?
Else that would be the name that's on every product that's on the shelf, right?
The unsexy balanced diet.
It's true. Right. It's not marketable, but it is the realest investment to health. Exactly. And the simplest.
Eat real food. It's actually quite simple, because if you look at your biggest hormonal disruptors, right? So the overconsumption and or the regular consumption, right, of processed food, of alcohol, of sugar, and of gluten.
Right.
See, 4 things.
Absolutely.
So if you're not eating real food and you're eating all that other stuff, right? No one has ever sat opposite me and said, hey, I'm really unhealthy because I eat vegetables. I eat seafood. I eat meat. I eat, things that I've made myself, right? And if you think back to that, our world is so full of convenience food. It's so easy to now pick up something on the go. But who today still takes their time to make things?
Beautiful.
My partner, he's from the southwest of France, and we're 40 minutes away from any supermarket. So when I wake up and I need something to eat, I have to prepare it.
Yeah.
I can't run down the hill, grab something to go. I have to go, all right? I got to crack some eggs into a pan. I've got to make some coffee, make some tea. If we've run out of bread, I've actually got to think about, do we have flour? Right. Can we put it in the bread maker? So I need to make my own food. But just by doing this slow food approach, which we've completely forgotten how to do, living in a city, fast-paced, professional, whatever life that we lead in today, where everything is now, or yesterday, right? We've lost the way we should be living, right? And so whether it's the 5, 10, 15, 20, whether it's the eat real food, it all comes back down to our world has changed very quickly, but our bodies have not, from an evolutionary perspective. Yeah. The most it's done is, I think, I saw a study on thumb length in this new generation got a little bit longer from all this.
That's evolution. Right, yeah. The farthest we've come.
There you go. That's the furthest we've come, guys. All right. So some of my 20-year-olds in my team, they've got longer thumbs than I do. We did a thumb comparison when I saw this study come out, and I was like, wow, I really short little thumbs.
I wouldn't be really surprised if that's all of the hormones that come off the food and the meat that is out there. We can define that also as evolution. No, we're just kidding about that. But yeah, that is not to be, maybe even to be edited out. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing, Trish. And I loved every bit of this, because you are an immense wealth of knowledge, passion, and even being an introvert that I know you are over this conversation. I don't believe, but having this wealth of information that you want to pass on and actually stop. I love what you said. Stop people from visiting doctors for a disease state. You are like a beautiful solution with Limitless and your team that is out there that can help re-engineer somebody's structure, which is a combination of who they were, what they ate, what they drank, what they are drinking.
And the environment that they live in.
Love it.
Right,
And
because there's nothing worse than a poor environment to live in, right? If your environment dictates that you're going to be running around, or you just have convenience food lying everywhere, or you don't like the place that you're sleeping in, or it's noisy, etc. Environment's actually really important too.
Right.
Right. I remember a client who used to live in LKF. Right, in the middle of everything.
You think it's the prime location to be, right?
Great location to be if you want to be a party animal.
Yeah.
But if you're looking towards health and wellness, maybe you want to get a little bit healthier. Maybe that's not the right environment to be in. And so, changing that environment a little bit actually helps with health. Yeah. It's not a clear-cut solution.
Right.
I wish it were.
But it's a journey.
Absolutely.
Decide to take control and start walking. With your help and the passion that you have, I'm sure that there'll be limitless solutions for people to actually dive in, because I always believe that medication buys you time. Yes. But once you're out on the street with that prescription, it's about how you use that time to use elements as food as medicine, emotion as medicine. I think if the viewers were just to walk away with just understanding that it is doable, first step is by taking control, then by assessing or working with a professional. And it's absolutely okay. Yeah. It is an investment towards optimizing or building resilience so that you can go out there and do more, be it in the sphere of professional, being an entrepreneur, high performance athletic, or be it just general well-being. So Trish, summarizing this whole conversation, I want the audience to walk away with 3 of Tricia's hacks, lifestyle hacks or biohacks that you would want someone to adopt starting right now.
Okay. Number 1, the seriously unsexy balanced diet. Number 2, lift weight. That's going to do loads of beautifully positive hormonal stuff for you and take you to old age. Number 3, restorative sleep.
Love it. Now, I'm going to put you on the hot spot with some quick fire questions. Okay? Every guest becomes a part of this, but it's just be wonderful. That's all my tip is. Okay, starting now.
All right.
MMA or CrossFit?
MMA.
Do you take failure as well?
No.
Brilliant. Sleep late or early?
Ooh, late.
Protein bar or a protein-rich meal?
Protein-rich meal, 100%.
Lovely. Lululemon or a dress on a date?
Dress.
Okay. No, I just asking. Because I would wear... Oh, no. Let's not... no, I'm trying to get a sponsorship.
You're married.
All right.
There's no
Most
dating.
embarrassing moment recently?
Oh, no, or ever. Trying to do 2 things at once. So watching a movie on a treadmill, which I should never do ever again, and literally having my legs stop and my face slam onto said treadmill.
Did it happen at the Limitless Center?
No, thank God.
Okay.
It happened at Pure.
Oh, wow. Okay, truly. So, Tricia, if I'm somebody who's watched this podcast or heard this podcast, and if I were to reach out to you knowing that something is not right, although it looks right, deep within, I know something is not right. Or, simple, I want to really super optimize my life so that I start to look better, perform better, and as a result, live longer. How can we reach out to you?
Well, you can find me on limitless.hk. Otherwise, you can follow me on social media. So I'm at TRICIAYAP, Tricia Yap, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And obviously, Limitless also has its own Instagram. So you can follow at Limitless Health HK. And through any of those channels, you can drop us an email, message. So lots of ways to contact.
All right. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and our conversation can go on, but that for the second edition of this podcast with you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Tricia.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Feeling is mutual.